we get to another section involving Joy Taylor. Miss Taylor again uses her sexuality to get on the show. So in approximately February of 2020, Miss Taylor asked Miss Faraji to meet her for lunch in Beverly Hills. When Miss Faraji arrived, she found Miss Taylor with a man, Emmanuel Acho. Miss Faraji did not know Mr. Acho, but could tell the two were romantically involved. Another situation where there's not enough details. I'm just curious, how did she know? But I guess we can imagine maybe they were holding hands, um, touchy feely, something like that. A few months after meeting Mr. Acho at the lunch, Miss Faraji noticed him in the hallway while at work. Miss Faraji later asked Miss Taylor if Mr. Acho also worked at Fox. Miss Taylor confirmed and explained that she wanted Mr. Acho to eventually recommend her on the show for Speak for Yourself. Miss Faraji became alarmed and warned Miss Taylor that she should probably not sleep with Mr. Dixon and Mr. Acho at the same time. And here's where we get into what you just talked about a second ago, Strutter. Um, as Mr. Dixon is a very powerful man that may become very angry. Miss Taylor told her not to worry about it. She explained that she was also now powerful, and once Mr. Dixon was no longer useful to her, she would follow through on her plan to tell the company that he forced himself on her. She would not allow herself to be forced out by Mr. Dixon like other women talent. So this is another one of those sections that I was reading that I'm like, damn, if this is true, I can never support Joy Taylor again. Because as I've said with other cases that we've discussed, when you have these situations where women weaponize the Me Too movement and are willing to make false allegations against a man for the sake of having a situation work out to their benefit or in the way that they prefer, when that comes out, that weakens the statements of every actual victim, every real victim that's out there. Because there are so many situations where victims are already not believed. But then you add on to that so many high profile situations where it's documented that women are lying and why they're lying, that they're lying with the purpose of manipulating a situation to their benefit. It just makes people less likely to believe victims in the future. And I'm just like, it's hard enough to convince women to report. The process, once you do report, is already so much to go through, so much to deal with, that when things like this are added into the situation, it really upsets me. And it's like, it's one of those things where I see men sometimes get angry at the idea of other men sexually harassing or assaulting women. And a lot of times that anger comes from a place of like, oh, if I ever had the chance, I would. And they usually like name, some act of violence or whatever. But I feel like we should also speak out against women who do this. Because we've got to set the standard that this is not acceptable behavior, that it's not okay, and that harming women in any way, whether it's directly, like you're the one committing the act, or you're the one who's doing something to create a culture and an environment where this type of behavior is either acceptable or more easily ignored. I just feel like it's all got to be called out. And that was another reason why I wanted to actually go through the lawsuit, because there was so much emphasis on, oh, did Joy Taylor sleep her way into her position, that it's like, wait, Joy Taylor is actually being accused of some serious stuff. Like, can we get past the jokes and the memes and actually address what the allegations are against her? Because this mess is not okay. So fast forward, apparently Miss Rodgers' job was threatened because she didn't sleep with Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless accused her of sleeping with Shannon Sharp and said that she could tell from her body language that she was sleeping with him. So Miss Faraji tried to explain that she was kind to all talent, and that included laughing and engaging in conversation, which I guess Skip Bayless wouldn't understand, because it seems like he didn't really have the capacity to make people laugh or enjoy conversation. He just made people really uncomfortable and scared. Miss Faraji then asked if he was yelling at her because she refused to go to his car. Mr. Bayless answered that she shouldn't talk to him like that. Miss Faraji replied that she could respond however she wanted. Mr. Bayless then angrily stated that he heard her talk to Mr. Sharp about her vagina. Miss Faraji knew this to be untrue and was embarrassed and angry. Miss Faraji responded that even if she had been dating Mr. Sharp, which she wasn't, it shouldn't matter at all because she only had a professional relationship with Mr. Bayless. Valid. Basically, Skip Bayless kept accusing her of sleeping with Shannon Sharp, referring to Shannon Sharp as his arch rival. If that adds any context to some of the tension between Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, because that is interesting. Because remember, I didn't highlight anything in this section, but like now that I'm like putting it together in real time, this is interesting because supposedly this whole situation happened in 2022. So if you put that along the timeline of when Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp started having a lot of tension on Undisputed, that eventually led to Shannon Sharp leaving the show, and then you add in these allegations, which may or may not be true, it does kind of add a little bit more supporting context to what might have been going on between the two of them. Because not only does Skip Bayless think that Shannon Sharp is sleeping with someone who wouldn't touch him for $1.5 million, but on top of that, he's referring to Shannon Sharp as his arch rival. So it's like there was already beef, and now he thinks Shannon Sharp is getting something that he couldn't get. So yeah, I know like these are allegations. We don't have proof that they're true, but so many parts of this just fit right into the timeline of what we do know publicly. It just seems to fit. It seems to make sense. Like I always do with these, I'm not going to say whether or not I believe anyone to be guilty or innocent of what they're accused of. I do think the one section where it talks about Skip Bayless becoming angry, thinking the plaintiff was sleeping with Shannon Sharp, I do think that is especially significant considering the timeline of what we saw at that time. So when it comes to evidence that, this may be based in truth, I can see people pointing to that section of the lawsuit and being like, oh yeah, I remember when they were beefing. I remember when it seemed like they were having some issues on screen. That's something that people can easily point to. As far as the rest of it, I mean, hey, there's either going to be a trial or they're going to settle out of court, and we can all give our opinions on it after that. My biggest issues with everything in this lawsuit, actually, no, I can't say my biggest issues because, well, I'm really disappointed in the idea of what Joy Taylor has been accused of. I can't act like that's worse than the people who are actually committing harmful acts against these women. But I'll just reiterate one more time. When it comes to Joy Taylor and just the emphasis on who she slept with, why she slept with them, what it got her, what it didn't get her, what she deserves, what she doesn't deserve, all that. Okay, I understand that being a conversation, but I just don't want to distract from the possibility that she might have been doing something that harmed other women. Because I think it's important that we don't blow past that. Like the other stuff is way more juicy, right? Especially for those people who don't necessarily like Joy Taylor or don't believe that she deserves what she's gotten. It's very easy to hyper focus on that and be like, see, she didn't deserve that position on Speak. See, she didn't deserve that position on Undisputed. I got you. But at the end of the day, that stuff is small in comparison to the idea that she was told about women who are being harmed by a culture that she was perpetuating and actively participating in, that she was using to her benefit. And then someone comes to her and says, hey, not just me and not just her, but multiple women are being sexually assaulted and harassed. And her response to that is, no one gives a fuck. Not only that, but then later, and then here's the crazy part. So women who are actually, allegedly, once again, allegedly, I need to just make a sign that says allegedly. So assuming this is true, right? Assuming this is true, allegedly, she heard about the stories of other women who had been sexually assaulted and said they need to get over it. No one gives a fuck, right? But then when she decides that she's ready to be done with Charles Dixon, she decides to weaponize the very thing that she told them they should get over. She says, oh, well, if he tries to do anything, I'm going to say he forced himself on me. Well, when other women said that was happening to them, you told them to get over it. So why do you think people should listen to you if you say it happens to you? Like, I guess it's like this. Sleeping with someone to get a position on a show. Maybe you're desperate. Maybe you feel like you're running out of time, you won't be given a chance. Maybe you recognize that your talent needs more development and you would rather exchange sexual favors than put in the work. But when you ignore the plights of other women, when you do things that actually put them in harm's way and contribute to the experiences that they're having, that's actually evil. Like that's actually fucked up. Like that is actually wrong and cold and makes you, in my opinion, a really fucked up person. The other stuff, I might side eye you and be like, really? It's questionable. It shows, maybe poor judgment, low level of ethics. But like this other stuff that she's being accused of in terms of the racist comments and um, the perpetuation of harassment, that's the kind of stuff that's like, nah, I can't fuck with you if that's true. Not at all. Writer Albert Lanier says, I think the allegations of Taylor's behavior, if true, are a bit eye-opening and of considerable concern. 100%. And that's where, and don't get me wrong, when I say that's where I wish the focus was, I don't actually expect people to focus on that. Because that's not how people operate. That is not how people operate. People like mess. People like drama. Talking about this supposed relationship between Joy Taylor and Emmanuel Acho is way more fun than having a serious conversation about the possibility of a woman perpetuating a toxic workplace environment where other women are being harmed, right? Like talking about that actually requires you to get serious for a second. Actually requires you to do some introspection. Might even require you to look at people in your own life and examine some of the things that they've done. It's not as fun. A lot of people go on social media for a distraction, for entertainment. So it's like, I know I have to temper my expectations when it comes to that.